Video. I'll give you some comments here. I'll go over the skate first and the classic. Looking good in that cowl suit. These first clips on the crust, you can tell, like, because of the crust, it's a little bit tricky conditions. So I think considering that, it looks good. But I'll pick apart some of these other clips in more detail. I think on this clip, the snow looks a little funky too. But one of the things I notice here is that your poling in your V1 is just a little bit mistimed, and that you'll see your pole tips are striking the ground kind of just in front of your foot. Just before your foot, versus kind of striking the ground at the same time, if that makes sense. And you can see that better at like full speed. I see poles hit and then that leading foot strikes the ground. So just working on that timing might be something to think about when we're doing a V1 like that in a race pace. I want to make sure that leading foot and those poles strike the ground at the same time, versus right now it's just slightly staggered. Poles hit and then the foot hits. Poles hit before you weight that foot, basically, is what I'm seeing there. And I think you can see that when we play it at full speed. To me, the arm reach doesn't look too bad, but in some of these clips, it does look like your skate poles could be a few centimeters too long. So you could play around with a slightly shorter pole, maybe take 2 or 3 centimeters off there and see how that feels. Because I can see that here in this clip. You can see that lead arm is pretty high. I like it when the hand gets, at eye level. But we don't want the poles to be too high, because that can kind of throw off your tempo and kind of get you hanging on that one side a little bit too long, which is what I see in this clip. So I think the takeaway from this clip is make sure you're getting an equal push off of that non-pulling leg. And again, that clip's a little short, so it's hard to see too much. Some of these racing clips, that last one's a little short. I really like this V1 clip. I think this is probably your best one. To me, this looks really good. One, that you're doing a good job of driving onto that non-pulling side. I can see that with that shin angle and that full weight transfer onto that non-pulling side. And then you do a good job. This is a nice, powerful position. Your knee is kind of tucked under your hips and your foot's underneath your knee. So this looks really good. I don't really have a whole lot to add to that. I think that's kind of a good clip for you to reference as really good V1 technique. You're staying really stable through your upper body. You're not rocking in the shoulders or anything. So that looks really good. And this V2 clip looks really nice too. You're doing a good job of getting a full weight transfer. I like it when you glide like that, big glide on your V2. So I think, like you mentioned, that little arm flick at the end of your V2 is something to work on. We just don't want to see the elbows come up super high out the back of a V2. I want you to finish your pulling motion without flicking the hands or bringing the elbows up super high behind you. Nice jumps. In this final clip, you can see that elbow a little bit, but I really like your hip position and your body position and the starting of your pulling position here too. I think you're doing a good job of getting your hands up and your elbows up into a nice, powerful position. That's really awesome. Look how high your hips are on that gliding ski. So I think that's really good. I don't have a whole lot to add as far as your body position and lower body mechanics on that V2. So I think that's a really good clip too. So nice work. I think you have some really good clips of you racing, and that's the best time to pick apart technique, obviously, is when you're racing, because that's when you get under fatigue and your technique falls apart. So it's good to compile some of these clips, and you can see what you can work on during easy skiing, and then the more you work on it during easy skiing, the more natural it will be when you're under fatigue and you're racing. But that V2 looks really good. On to the classic stuff. I remember looking at this one before. The name of the game in classic for you is going to be gliding on a single ski. So that's the first thing. I think we talked about you like checking your balance with that back foot and having that not come off the ground enough. And you can see that it's really evident on this roller ski clip. But on some of these other clips, you do a much better job on snow of extending that kick and actually gliding on that leading leg, which is what we want to see. So you do a better job here on snow. You can see your back leg is elevated. You have a full balance on that driving ski. So that's really good. That looks nice. So the two additional things I think you can work on, and something that everyone can work on in classic skiing, is having a really dynamic arm drive. So driving your arm down the track, and you can see, I think, from this head-on clip how you could really benefit from that. You can generate a lot of momentum. If I'm looking at your left arm right here, if you want to drive this down the track, it's going to help you set a nice powerful kick on your kicking leg, and it's going to generate momentum down the track. So really thinking about having a powerful arm swing and not so much lifting your arm down the track, but really throwing it and driving it and swinging it from the shoulder as you stride down the track. So that's something to work on. This clip, I can see you're running out of the track. Looks to me like you're struggling with kick, which makes sense if you're kind of running out of the track. But things to remember when you're running are, we want to make sure we're extending our push through our entire leg and not just quadding it, working on the fronts of our legs and our quads. When we push through our entire leg, we're able to activate the glutes and the hamstrings and other powerful muscles. And when you see a guy like Klæbo running on skis, even though he looks like he's doing a running stride, he's still extending through his entire leg and pushing really, really well through the entire leg, and not shorting his kick, which is hard to do if you're struggling with grip wax on the bottom of your skis, which I kind of see there. But just remember that even if you're running, you want to push through the entire leg and try to activate those glute muscles and the muscles other than simply your quads as you kind of bound up the hill. Okay, let's see here. Double pole. Some of the double pole clips look really good. I think similar to your V2 upper body mechanics, you're in a good starting position. Your hips could be a little higher on this clip. Sometimes you see your hips get a little bit further back in some clips than others. So I don't know if that just depends on the terrain, whether it's a gradual uphill or gradual downhill or what. So that's always something to think about. And finding ways to double pole with the weight of your body. That's something we talk about a lot, is like using the weight of your torso. You can see right here on this clip, I'm not seeing a ton of lower leg flexion as you double pole, which leads me to believe that you could get more power by adding a little bit more, drop in the knee, a little bit more shin flexion, which will allow you to use the weight of your body down on your poles versus just kind of bending at the waist like that. So that's something that can be easily worked on roller skis through lots of double poling. Same on this clip. I think the big takeaway here is thinking about the first two things I mentioned with striding, but also the last piece of the puzzle is working on how much momentum you can generate with your leg swing. So you want to pair a powerful leg swing with your arm drive. And a lot of people forget that. They think if they're classic skiing, they want to just push and kick as hard as they can down and out the back. But you can generate so much more speed if you focus on swinging your leg through quickly. So if I'm looking at your outstretched leg out the back, I want to get that foot out in front of me as quickly as possible and really swing that leg through versus just sliding it forward. So think leg swing and not like scooching your foot forward in between each stride. So having a really powerful leg swing is going to be kind of the last thing I think that you need to work on. And I think if you put all three of those things together, it'll feel a lot faster, more efficient, and more powerful. Again, a running clip, make sure you're using a full leg extension. Yeah, so sweet. Hopefully those make sense, and that's a good place to start with some of your technique training this spring and on roller skis. So just let me know if you have any questions.